plan is to get all of this fitted in our wall cavities, ready for the vapor barrier and the wall paneling. We've got our insulation, and I unrolled this quite a few days ago, so it's expanded out quite a bit, and we'll give it a fluff before we put it in there. So this is the contact adhesive. I'm guessing it's just a spray. Wait till it's tacky and then stick it on. And I've also got some double-sided tape, and that is going to help us just hold up the foil, the bubble foil, as we're kind of fitting it really. Our first piece is cut. I say cut, it doesn't cut particularly well. It's more of a tear. I've got a little bit of a void, very small void under there, so I'm going to tuck it right up behind there. There shouldn't be any need for that contact adhesive on this small area. Worked pretty well. All went as I planned, I think. Like I said, we've still got to tape around these with the foil, but it does mean that we've got a really solid surface. When you put this bubble wrap over the top of it, I tested it, and it just doesn't feel quite like it would be strong enough. You know, the timber could rock slightly maybe. I don't know. Give you a little run through on how I'm doing it on the other side. So first thing I did is just put all the double-sided sticky tape on, and that's what's going to hold up the foil at the end. So I've ripped off what we needed, and of course the benefit of using a soft insulation is that all the offcuts, whereas with board you end up with a lot of waste. Any offcuts we can still use in any of the cavities, smaller areas in the doors. One thing to remember with a soft insulation is that if you buy, you know, a 75mm, 100mm thick wool insulation, as soon as you compress it, it loses its value. So there's no point in buying 150mm loft insulation, for instance, and then cramming it into a 40-50mm void. It kind of is pointless, really. So that's why you want to make sure you kind of fill it out to its full potential, because it's the air that's within the wool that will give it its properties. Filled in now, and of course that adhesive's holding up for now, but what we want to do is put the vapor barrier on, which is also foil bubble, and then we're going to drop some battens between these two as well. Right, so I've used a nice factory edge on the bottom because I've got a little bit of space here I can tuck up if there is a tiny bit of excess. I don't think there should be, but I'm going to try to get this nice and tight. A bit of a simulation. Our plywood is going to be attached to these, and also a little bracket up here, which, as you can see, leaves a good 25mm behind here, which is ideal. That's how this stuff works. As soon as you stick this stuff onto the metalwork, no point. As soon as you kind of start just sandwiching it in between materials, I mean, all you're relying on is a 1mm or 3mm or whatever of air within these bubbles. Just a bit pointless. So ideally you want an air space. The other side of here we've got an air space of sorts because it's an air-filled insulation, and then on this side we've got that nice, so any of this sort of radiant heat is going to be reflected back on both sides to a certain extent. And what the other nice thing, like you'd use in a house, is we're going to be boarding on here. We actually end up with a service cavity in here. So there are a few lights, reading lights and things, which I haven't bothered dropping conduit all the way through the van. I'm just going to come along from the kitchen within the wall here and drop them through, which is ideal. I've actually run out of foil tape, so I have to use a bit of imagination, but as you can see under here is the Celotex, which is our poly or PIR, sort of polyiso insulation, and we're going to tape this to there for our vapor barrier. Oh, I got a bit snip happy down there. Now of course I've got to carry on up that way, I've got to do the sliding door, and I might use a few little different methods for those, but you get the idea. It's a full fill plastic wool insulation, then this sort of radiant barrier, the bubble wrap stuff, taped completely, we'll tape over these, then the boards, which will come in a future video. And that's it, that's the build up. So we've got two kind of forms of insulation, solid insulation we've used on the ceiling and the floor, and then a soft fill insulation for the walls. Okay, not really filming today, I just spent half an hour or so just taping up the foil. I picked up some of the foil tape, super wide stuff for some reason, but just overlapping that, so all of our ply is now kind of foiled over. We'll then be fixing into this in the future, but it means that we've got no gaps, we've got completely seamless. It's taped into that ceiling board that came down the side there, so it really is looking like a spaceship now. So take it or leave it. I'm sure I'm just inviting all of this sort of comments, criticisms, whatever, but you know, stick them below, people can discuss stuff down there. This is I'd say a thought out approach, but not the best. There are ways of doing insulation so you don't have, you know, you have absolutely no thermal bridging and things like that. But that's how we've got to where we are. Next video is going to be, I guess, finishing this, although I'll probably do that on my own time. But then we want to be lining and getting all the walls finished. And then we can start painting. What I want to get to is when we've got a fully panelled, insulated, wired, kind of, and flooring down, sort of a shell. So that's my plan before Christmas, so you will have to be patient. I'm going to get to that phase, then hold off it for a month or two whilst I do some jobs in the house, and then we basically, at that point you've got a van, which every van's got to get to that point. They've got to have walls, a ceiling and insulation, or certainly most do. From then on it's completely unique to every van, so I'll show you how we're building the units and the doors and the bed and stuff, but this main phase is probably the bit that you want to see, because everyone can kind of work out how to build a few cupboards and things like that. But it's all these sort of fussy details which most people seem to be asking me about. So if you are enjoying the van videos, let us know, give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this one, and make sure you subscribed if you haven't done already. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll catch you in the next one.